Hey there, I'm Kevin. I like to talk about queer stuff and Jesus, and this week we're going to tackle the question, am I ready to have sex? Or in your case, are you ready to have sex? It's not a secret, I'm a very sex positive person. If you're new to this channel, welcome, that's what I talk about a lot. In the past couple of videos, we've been tackling the question about, is it okay to have sex before marriage? And the answer is yes. You can go back and watch the other videos to tackle those questions. But there is another question that, just because you can have sex, are you ready to have sex? Should you have sex? There's a really fantastic resource that I was turned on to by queertheology.com, and I'm gonna put the link to that in the description box below. Basically, it's a list of all these incredible questions you can ask in order to kind of gauge where you are, to see, am I thinking about all these things? Am I considering all the consequences? Am I ready emotionally, physically, spiritually, etc.? I kind of picked a couple out that I thought were really incredible and I wanted to share them with you. So when you're asking yourself, am I ready to have sex? Consider the following questions. First question, do I want to have this kind of sex for myself? Do I want it for myself, like physically, emotionally, intellectually, spiritually? Have I considered, do I really want this for myself? There is so much pressure to have sex before we're ready. And honestly, there is no rush on it. A lot of my content feels like, go have sex, go have sex. And yeah, I want people to do that, but I want people to do that when they're ready, obviously. And I think people should only do it when they're ready. And something that you might consider is like the person that you might be wanting to have sex with. Are they ready? Do they have the same values as you? Are they lining up? Do you want to have sex for the same reason? Now, granted, the person you want to have sex, this could be a casual hookup situation. And as long as you are consenting, as long as you understand like all the risks and things that go along with having a casual encounter with someone, then by all means, go for it. If you're just kind of jumping into having sex for the first time, or maybe you're still working through that question, I would definitely say, just ask yourself, do I want to have this kind of sex for me? Not because then someone else is pressuring me. Second question you can consider is, do I understand the possible outcomes of having sex, both positive and negative, and do I feel prepared as I can be? And the person I'm having sex with, are they on the same page? There are also all the amazing possible outcomes, like, having an orgasm and, having a really, really good time, discovering your body, discovering who you are, what you like and what you don't like. There's a whole litany of amazing things that happen because of sex. And there's also the reality that the first time you have sex probably won't be crazy good. In fact, I remember the first time I had sex with someone, I didn't have lube, it was a whole thing. I'm gonna make a video about that later. But it was one of those things where just I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And I probably could have had a better time, had I kind of thought it out a little bit more. But regardless, your first time might not be great. A lot of people's first times aren't great, but that doesn't mean that it can't be better later. So don't let that be a discouragement to you. Just know that it's a possibility. I think when we suspend our own expectations of what sex should be, it allows us to be a lot more open to what the sex is and what the relationship is, rather than feeling like you have to put all this pressure on, the sex the first time to be absolutely incredible, you know what I'm saying? The less you have an expectation, the more you're gonna get as a gift. And sometimes it might take a while for you to get through stuff. And also another unexpected outcome could be that, you get triggered. If you're like me and you've got religious PTSD, or you are a survivor of sexual assault, you can probably note that if something that you're doing in the bedroom is causing you to go into a panic attack, note that about yourself and be able and willing to talk about that with your partner, hopefully prior to getting into that. I'm gonna make another video later on about talking about past sexual traumas with a partner. And not only are there are all these expectations of what the physical sex should be, there's also the emotional side of things. Are you ready emotionally for this? Because yeah, we are emotional creatures, and a lot of us experience sex as an emotive, spiritual experience. So, it's something to consider. If you are trying to have sex with someone because you're trying to fix your relationship, if anything, sex is just going to complicate things. Generally, I think sex is kind of a reflection of the relationship. If you have a good, steady relationship, a supportive relationship where the partners are mutual, then usually you could say the sex is probably pretty good. They're probably enjoying it if they're, continuing to have sex with each other. Sex is not like a magic potion that you can just pour a little on and just fix the situation. It's, it's a tool for intimacy, but it's not the thing that's going to fix emotional problems. That comes from this verbal communication, honey. So just, think about that. Again, go back to that first question. Why do I want to have this sex? Do I want to have it for me? and because I want to experience pleasure and I want to give my partner pleasure, not because I'm trying to like fix a relationship. Because again, that's having sex under duress and that's being pressured into sex, and that's any sex that you're pressured into is going to be really, really horrible. Just trust me on that one. So third question, are you ready for any unexpected or unwanted outcomes that could arise because of having sex? And again, is your partner on the same page? And this is a big one, especially for all of my Christian, former Christian, ex-Christian, post-Christians, low Christian, any one of us who grew up in the church. Those of us who are just now figuring out sex and having like a second adolescence, so to speak. You've got to be very, very real about the unwanted outcomes of sex. If you're someone who can get pregnant, know that that's a possibility. The risk of STIs. If you are, a man who has sex with other men or a queer person who has sex with other men, HIV rates are higher in our community. And a lot of people don't even know their status, so it's really, really important to make sure you're getting tested often. It's really, really important to make sure you know your status and the status of your partner. The thing about HIV is that it's also super preventable. There is a drug called PrEP that is 99% effective from preventing the contraction of HIV. It's a daily supplement, it's super duper safe, tons of people have it. And additionally, if you are someone who's HIV positive, you already know this information, but for those of you who are not HIV positive, there are drugs out there that help suppress the HIV virus to the point where it's called undetectable, which means that you cannot transmit HIV from an undetectable person to someone who is HIV negative. So remember that undetectable equals untransmittable. And I also am a big advocate, if you're engaging in anal sex of any kind, make sure you're using a condom, because by doing that, there is a litany of things that you can prevent. And so recognize these things happen. They don't happen all the time. STIs happen. And I would also say that there's no shame in contracting an STI. STIs aren't like a punishment for having sex. STIs are kind of a byproduct. If you're having sex, even the most safe people contract STIs. There's no shame in it. If you get it, go to the doctor, get some meds, and you'll be over it. No big deal. Last question. How do you feel about all those questions that we just answered? Because if you're going through those answers and you're saying, oh, I don't really know if I'm ready. I think I need to do a little bit more research, or just I'm not ready because I'm not ready, period. That's fine. You do not have to have sex. There's no timeline on having sex. You're not less of a human or less of a progressive or whatever because you're not having sex. But if you're ready, if you're, you've educated yourself, you know the risks involved in having, the kind of sex you want to have with the person that you want to have it with, by all means, if it's consensual and good, go for it. There's so many amazing things that happen because of sex, and I just want you to be doing it in a way that's healthy and supportive and that you feel good about. So yeah, that's all I gotta say. Remember those 3 questions. Do I want to have this kind of sex with this person? Am I aware of all of the possible outcomes of this, and am I prepared for any unwanted outcomes? That's basically what it comes down to. Thanks so much for watching this video. If you liked it, do the usual, like, share, subscribe. Share this with somebody in your life who's struggling with the questions around sex, because I would love to just connect with more people that way. And thank you to my Patreon supporters for making this video possible. If you like this video and you want more queer Christian content about sex, love, and everything else in between, go ahead and go to patreon.com to become a sustaining partner. Even as much as little as $1 or $2 a month really makes a difference in the kind of work I can make. Check me out across the internet. All the links are below. That's all of the things I gotta say. Ooh, comment below. Tell me about what you've been learning about sex and body, and what questions do you ask when you're getting ready to be sexually active with somebody. So this has been another episode of Good Christian Sex. My name is Kevin Garcia, and I will see you next week. Love you. Bye.